All right, so just having a quick look at DXY because obviously it's just been on an absolute rip the last couple of weeks. So as you can see, it's quite a strong sort of uptrend channel. I mean, whatever sort of time frame this is on the 1 hour you're looking at, but we can see that it's just been absolutely killing. And since we didn't get this continuation, if we go onto the daily, this was where we wanted to see after this massive fall and breaking a bunch of key supports horizontal and also this little triangle that it was forming. We didn't get that daily close to see a further continuation coming down here. And so obviously markets just rejected from there and it is just shot straight back up. So you can almost see a little bit of this higher time frame daily sort of channel sort of playing out. This line here is a bit sort of obsolete now. Obviously it was a sort of point of reference to sort of see if they were going to get a bounce around this zone here, but it doesn't seem to be relevant anymore. So with the bounce up and that, we've thought pretty much that I had a confluence of that underside of that triangle support. You had the horizontal, you had the 61% all coming in around this zone here. And we did see a bit of a reaction, as you see, it was a bit of a sort of drop off. You can see it better on the lower time frames. That from the 61%, that first clip, we did get quite a sort of significant sort of push and drive back down, but of course then market just kept churning on the way through and that. I did sort of add this extra line for the channel down here because as you can see, at the time DXY was sort of rolling over, but this was when there was sort of this late night speculation that sort of the BOJ were going to sort of interfere with their yield curve control, and that coupled with a couple of sort of comments from the ECB just gave it the perfect storm. And you can just say, I mean, the size of volume that was coming into the market off those two bits of news and data at the same time, or wasn't data, sorry, it's news basically, and comments, it really just drove uh, it right back up into this channel. So this is why ultimately, I sort of see this as being our main sort of channel, but obviously this has got to be respected. And if we sort of go on and sort of draw this line continuing with the same gradient as the original channel, we can see that sort of like, even this wasn't able to hold. So this sell down now, although it's broken its little short-term downtrend channel here, is quite significant because it is hitting these new lower lows. So we're starting to see a bit more of a actual significant change in the trend here. So potential more sort of downside to come with DXY in the coming days. So if we have a look on the 4 hour, we obviously we saw a bit of a drop off here. So this was off NFP news with a number that was quite substantially lower than well, it wasn't substantially lower, but it did come in lower than expectations and obviously lower than last month. So you can see ADP was this candle through here, and that was on the Wednesday night, and that was because they were drastically above expectations. So we're starting to see a bit of a trend of how the news is going to react and particularly how it's going to affect the market. So lower than expectations. Okay, bang, we've dropped down here. That's great. We're sort of starting to come with quite a significant candle. We did sort of rally a little bit into the close of the week, but that is quite a significant confirmation that the market's ready to sort of sell on any sort of news coming out that could be adversely affecting the DXY. So DXY loves deep pullbacks. Like it is just one of these things where once it's on a trend, it just rips. And this is why I was looking around the 61, but I have noticed, and if you go back further, I mean, I'd have to draw them up, but it's such a volatile thing. And realistically, its pullbacks are generally sort of around the 78 percent fib mark and that. So 61's a nice strong one, had a bit of confluence with stuff. Obviously, the market agreed with me almost to the cent. But, for whatever reason, the market was still happy to push it a little bit higher. But now we're seeing the 78 really come into effect and sort of knock the market down a little bit. So what we're probably looking for, sort of moving forward, we've dropped underneath the 4 hour 20 moving average here. I would expect now to see some sort of retest of this 20 MA. So I expect this to start to sort of come down like this here now. I'd expect to see at some stage a move across with the DXY. So if we sort of get, I imagine to be a little bit of continuation of this strength coming down, but I don't think we're going to get a complete meltdown off this. I think we're going to get sort of something down to this side over here. We're going to see the market sort of think, okay, here we go, reaction, bang, trap some people, suck it out, get one more push in, get up underneath here to sort of meet this sort of curling over 20 MA and then bounce off. And then I think that's when we're going to be starting to look for a bit more of a downside push. As to how far and significant it is, it's not necessarily to say that, DXY is completely going for the lows, but I would say at least sort of coming through the early part to mid part of next week. I think we've got CPI coming in as well, so that could affect things. But I would expect to see a little bit of downside push with the DXY, at least sort of coming back down to this previous lows from where was this, sort of back in April. So this part where we're sort of saying that the market has valued DXY. Obviously, sort of they let it drop significantly down underneath here. But I think as well, this is a good time to sort of trap all the people that were sort of like dollar short and obviously just rip it right up and then just really sort of decimate the markets a little bit there. So that's on the 4 hour. We're sort of seeing this. If we flip across to a daily look, we're also sort of seeing that this is why I don't know how far down we're necessarily going to be coming on DXY, because I'll get a couple of these out of the way to sort of make it a bit clearer. We've got, let's go to these. We've got this sort of move up over the 20 MA in the daily time frame. So obviously, once it's sort of pushed through, we're going to have to see eventually some sort of back test. And I think this is where we're going to get a little bit of a sort of a crossover in the market. And we're going to start to see whether this move is done for DXY or whether we've still got some more potential upside and squeezing of the dollar shorts. But if you sort of look at the 4 hour 20 MA, which was these lines here that we sort of drew back here, if we sort of continue down our sort of thoughts on this here, we're going to be seeing sort of it come back up and then sort of travel down like this. If we flip, so I think it might have been in the 1 hour. No, here we go with the daily. You're going to start to see this 20 MA on the daily start to do something like this. And I think this is where we're going to sort of start to see the reaction of how strong this move is. So it'll give us a bit of a sort of downside push. You can't quite see it on the screen here. If I move it up, you can have a bit of a look. But the RSI and statistics are rolling over as well, quite clearly in the overbought. So that's obviously going to sort of play into a little bit of the more sort of downside move with DXY. But if we see this 4 hour bounce off its 20 MA, come down here, I think this is a good area where we can start to sort of make a bit of a judgment call about whether we're going to get a reaction that's on the daily, moving down, hitting this area of confluence, which, as is previously said, we know that this market has sort of valued this previously, and you can even see a bit of a congestion sort of coming in around this as we were coming back up through it. Off the 20 MA, I expect at least a little attempt of a rally, and then we're going to sort of see, is it going to come back down, break the lows of the thing, come back down underneath that 20 MA, or are we going to see a big push back up and retest these highs previously over here? So that's what we're looking for sort of moving forward. Short-term weakness in DXY. Not to sort of say that it's going to be a straight sell down. It's not going to go boom straight down and that. Like you'll probably see a couple of little flare-ups and that along the way. Obviously, the lower time frames are the ones where you'll be able to sort of see these kicks a little bit more. But as you can see, it sort of had a bit of a push on the 1 hour sort of coming into the close of the week. Wasn't able to get back over this previous zone that we sort of have marked out here. You've got the 20 MA coming down here. I'd expect a sort of a little bit of a sort of up and down around this area, but ultimately moving back towards the 101 to 101.20 zone, and then sort of see how the market sort of values things from there. Still, if you zoom out, very much in a bit of a downtrend channel, we had the 78 pullback here. If we look on a weekly, this shows the extent of the push for DXY. when it gets on a trend, it just goes. It's like bang bang. Very rarely are you getting, I mean, congestion around the spins, I suppose, up around here, like where the market's about to reverse a little bit. But it won't just go bang and drop back down. But we haven't had the second test down of sellers yet. Not to sort of say that, the buyers won't sort of still take it even higher, but you'd want to sort of see this sort of like second test come down here. So we know that we've sucked down all the sort of dollar shorts and then a big push up. So everything sort of lines up for a little bit of a back and forth over this week, but ultimately downside on US dollar and then through to a push up to sort of see if we've got any sort of strength to tackle this sort of large sort of downtrend channel that we've been sort of playing.